Welcome back, learners, and let's continue with our lesson. So we are going to go into the first part of our lesson, and that is calculation with integers. Let's remind ourselves what integers are. Remember, integers are all whole numbers and negative numbers, including 0. And remember, we have those numbers on the number line where on the right-hand side, we have the positive numbers, and on the left-hand side of 0, we have the negative numbers. 0 is the neutral one. So, multiplication of two positive numbers or two negative numbers. The product of two positive numbers is a positive number. The product of two negative numbers is also a positive number. So let's look at some examples. We have here on this table that if I multiply a positive number with a positive number, then the answer will be positive. Again, if I multiply a negative number with a negative number, the product of these two negative numbers will also be positive. If I have a positive 2 multiplied by a positive 5, the answer is going to be a positive 10. Again, if I have a negative 2 multiplied by a negative 5, because both of them are negative, then my answer is going to be still a positive 10. And two negative numbers, the answer is still positive. Let's move on to multiplication of a positive and a negative number. The product of a positive number and a negative number is a negative number. The product of a negative number and a positive number is also a negative number. Let's look at some examples. So looking at the table there, we have a positive number being multiplied with a negative number, and the answer is going to be a negative. An example here on the side says that a positive 2 multiplied by a negative 5. So we know that the answer is going to be negative, and then 2 multiplied by 5, if we multiply just the natural numbers, that is going to be a negative 10. The same goes for if I am multiplying a negative number with a positive number. Remember, we can swap them around because multiplication is commutative. But if I multiply a negative number with a positive number, then my answer is still going to be negative, and that answer is going to be a negative 10. What about division? So we're going to start with division of two positive numbers or two negative numbers. When we divide two positive numbers, the answer will be a positive number. When we divide two negative numbers, the answer will also be a positive number. Let's look at some examples. So again, looking back at the table, we have a positive divided by a positive number. That is going to give us an answer of a positive number. For an example, we have the positive 20 divided by a positive 5, because we know that the answer is going to be a positive 20 divided by 5 is 4, and that is a positive 4. Then we have a negative number divided by a negative number. The answer is still going to be a positive. So then we have negative 20 divided by negative 5, and that will give us still a positive 4. Let's move on to division of a positive number and a negative number. When we divide a positive number with a negative number, the answer is a negative number. When we divide a negative number with a positive number, the answer is also a negative number. Let's look at some examples. So again, when we look at the table there, we have a positive number being divided with a negative number, and the result will be a negative number. For example, here, if I have a positive 20 divided by a negative 5, the answer is going to be a negative 4. And again, if I am dividing a negative number with a positive number, the answer is going to be a negative number. For example, there we have a negative 20 divided by a positive 5, and the answer is still a negative 4. Let's look at some square numbers of integers. Remember when we started the lesson in our pre-knowledge, we were working with the square and the cube numbers of whole numbers, but now we are going to look at integers. So I have 5 squared, and we know that it is 5 multiplied by 5, and that is going to give us an answer of 25. That is with a positive 5. So what happens with a negative 5? And again, look at how I've used those brackets to indicate that I am squaring the whole negative 5. That means it is going to be a negative 5 multiplied by a negative 5. And as we've just seen, that if I multiply two negative numbers, that is going to give me a positive number. And our answer there is a positive 25. Then I have 9 multiplied by 9, which is 9 squared, and our answer there is 81. And if I have a negative 9 squared, that is negative 9 multiplied by a negative 9. Again, multiplying two negative numbers will give us a positive answer of 81. Remember, or as you can see actually, that square numbers will always be positive because you multiply either two negative numbers or two positive numbers. So as you can see there, whether we are squaring a positive number or a negative number, our answer is always positive. So what does this mean when we are looking for our square roots? Now, we know that the square root of 9 is the square root of 3 squared, and our answer there is 3. And our answer there is a positive because we've been asked for the positive square root of 9. If we were asked for the negative square root of 9, then we know that that comes from our negative 3 squared. And our answer there would be the negative 3 because we've been asked for a negative square root. So what happens if we are not told whether it's a positive square root or a negative square root? So for example, if we are told that a certain number squared is equal to 9. Now we know in maths, we don't use blocks to represent a number that we don't know, but we do use variables. And now we can say there that a certain number, or x squared, is equals to 9. Now in this case, we are not told whether we are looking for a positive square root or a negative square root. So how do we work that out? We are going to say, okay, this certain number here is equals to 9. We are going to place a square root because we do know that for us to find the square root of a number, we are going to put a square root. But now because we don't know whether it's a positive square root or a negative square root, we need to accompany that square root with a plus minus sign there. So now we have the square root of x squared is equals to plus minus the square root of 9. And what is our answer going to be there? Our answer is going to be either a positive or a negative 3. So a square number is produced from a positive integer and a negative integer. Therefore, a square number always produces both a positive and the negative square root. So we write it as a positive or negative square root of 9, which will give us an answer of a positive or negative 3. So the answer is either a positive 3 or a negative 3. Then we have the square roots of negative 144. Then we have negative square root of 144. So that means we have there a negative, and in the square root, we have 144. But we know 144 is 12 squared. So that means that our answer is going to be a negative 12. And we know that the answer is negative because it was specified to us that they are looking for the negative square root of 144. What about if I'm asked for a positive square root of 144? Again, this is a 12 squared as our 144, and that answer is going to be a positive 12. Positive square root is a positive answer. Let's quickly go to an ad break and then we'll see you just now.